Have you ever wondered why the universe would bring someone into your life only to make them impossible to keep? Why it would allow you to feel such an intense, undeniable bond with someone, only to separate you in the end? It's one of the cruelest truths to face when something feels so real, so deep, yet some part of you knows it can never last. Whether it's timing, circumstance, or the path of your personal evolution, something stands in the way, and it's in moments like these that we come to see maybe some people aren't meant to stay. Maybe they're meant to awaken something within us that we never would have found on our own. Carl Jung believed that the most significant connections don't come from logic or reason, they rise from the unconscious. They're part of something deeper unfolding within you, a meeting of souls that pushes you toward transformation, not comfort. Because when two souls collide and ignite something powerful, it's rarely about building an easy life together. More often, it's about catalyzing growth that might have taken years, or never happened at all. You meet someone, and suddenly, everything you thought you'd healed, old insecurities return. Forgotten dreams start whispering back to you. Wounds you buried begin to ache. And it's not an accident. It's intentional. It's a divine disruption. Part of you wants to cling to it, to make the connection last. But another part, the wiser part, knows it was never about possession. It was about awakening. The heart wants stability. It wants to belong. It craves permanence. But the soul, it longs for expansion, for truth, for awakening. And sometimes those desires pull you in opposite directions. You can feel a love so pure, so intense, and still not be meant to walk a lifetime with that person. Because love isn't always a destination. Sometimes, it's a doorway. And once you walk through it, the door closes behind you. Jung spoke of synchronicity, how nothing truly meaningful happens by chance. The people we meet, the timing, the pull we feel, it's all aligned with a deeper current. When you feel that overwhelming recognition, it's not just attraction. It's a convergence of timelines, a cosmic event guided by something far beyond your understanding, and the pain that follows. That isn't a mistake. That's the breaking open, the necessary fracture of the shell you've built around your heart. You might ask, why would the universe give me something so beautiful, only to take it away? But true growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens in the heartbreak, in the ache, in the unanswered questions. That pain drags you into the depths of your soul, places you'd never go on your own. And in that loss, something essential is revealed, something no safe love, no easy life could have ever shown you. That person you can't forget. They weren't a punishment. They were a mirror, a catalyst, a messenger carrying a piece of your soul's forgotten story. You needed to meet them. You needed to love them. And yes, you needed to lose them. Because in doing so, you remembered who you are. And no amount of comfort could have done that. When you can't stop thinking about someone, it's because they touched a part of you that's still unfinished. They stirred something sacred. They pulled you closer to the life you were meant to awaken into, not because they were meant to walk beside you, but because they were sent to open a door you wouldn't approach alone. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels unfair. But when you stop asking, why did they leave? And start asking, what did they awaken in me? That's when healing begins. Maybe they reminded you how to feel after years of being numb. Maybe they revealed your own patterns of fear, sabotage, or self-betrayal. Maybe they cracked open your heart just enough to let life back in. And that vulnerability, that pain's not weakness. That's being alive. Jung said that when two personalities meet, it's like the contact of two chemicals. If there's a reaction, both are transformed. You were changed by them, not just emotionally, but chemically. And that transformation, that was the real reason. Not the fairy tale, not the forever, but the alchemy of your soul. You're not broken because you still miss them. You're not weak because it still aches. You're human, and your soul knows Some connections are meant to carve themselves into you, because who you become afterward is someone you could never have become without that pain. Maybe it wasn't about being with them. Maybe it was about finally meeting yourself through them. It's tempting to believe that if love is real, it should last. That if two people feel the same, they should end up together. But life isn't that clean. Not every real connection is built to endure. Some are meant to burn brightly and leave only ashes, not roots. Sometimes, the universe sends someone not to stay, but to ignite. They awaken your dormant longings, your fears, your unfinished healing. They enter like a flame to dry wood, and nothing looks the same after they've gone. You feel the loss and think something precious was taken. But in truth, you've been freed from a prison you didn't even know existed. Jung emphasized the need to face our unconscious, to meet the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, or ignored. And love, especially the kind that feels destined but impossible, forces us to meet those parts. It strips away your illusions. It shows you your neediness, your fear of abandonment, your hidden wounds. And once seen, you can't unsee them. Sometimes, souls meet not to stay, but to activate. One comes to mirror the other's shadow. And once the mirror has done its work, the physical connection dissolves. Not because it failed, but because it served its purpose. You think you failed because the relationship didn't last. But maybe success would have kept you asleep. Maybe holding on would have kept you stuck in a version of yourself you were meant to outgrow. We like to think relationships should be safe havens, but the ones that change us the most, those are storms. Wild, beautiful, destructive. They tear through our illusions. They rip down our defenses. And in the ruins, we find our real strength. We find the self we buried under years of survival. Jung once said that loneliness doesn't come from being alone. It comes from not being able to express what matters most to us. Meeting someone who truly sees you can be exhilarating and terrifying. It makes you realize how much you've hidden, how much you've silenced yourself. Sometimes, the universe sends a person to disrupt your false peace, to force you to confront what you've buried deep. And while you may want them to stay, the wiser part of you knows they didn't come to settle inside your walls. They came to break them down. Losing a soul connection doesn't mean losing the person. It means refusing to see what they came to reveal. If you hold on to resentment or regret, you stay trapped in the wound. But if you face the pain, let it teach you, then it becomes your liberation. The universe doesn't send people at random. It sends messages, mirrors, lessons. Some arrive wrapped in love, others in heartbreak, but all come from the same source, the part of existence that wants you to awaken to who you truly are. You might meet someone who feels like home, only to discover that home is something you must build within. You might love someone deeply, only to realize that love sometimes means letting go, not because it was untrue, but because holding on would betray your own becoming. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes pain is the crack where the light enters. The one you can't forget, the one you couldn't keep, might have been the key that unlocked the deepest door within you. A door you didn't even know was shut. It wasn't fair. It wasn't easy. It wasn't what you wanted, but it was sacred. And in the language of the soul, that is enough. When you feel that ache of missing someone, remember, you're not just missing them. You're mourning the version of yourself that existed when they were near. The innocence, the possibility, the dream. But what you gained, the awareness, the awakened heart that cannot be taken away. Some people leave imprints too deep to erase. You might never fully forget them, but you can transform what their presence awakened in you. You can carry the love, the pain, the memory not as chains, but as wings. They weren't sent to complete you. They came to break you open, to push you closer to your real self, to show you that the deepest connections aren't about possession. They're about evolution. The universe doesn't send who you want. It sends who you need. And sometimes, the soul you needed most, is the one you couldn't keep. We tend to believe that if something causes deep pain, it must have been wrong, that if it didn't last, it was a mistake. But the soul doesn't work like that. Carl Jung understood. Life isn't about constant comfort. It's about individuation, becoming who you truly are. And that path, it's rarely smooth. It's raw. It's disruptive. It's filled with moments that tear you open, so you can rebuild on a foundation that's finally honest. The person you can't forget wasn't a detour. They were a sacred interruption. They didn't derail your life. They redirected it toward the life you were always meant to live. You didn't love the wrong person. You loved at the wrong stage of your growth. Or maybe they hadn't yet learned how to love themselves, and so they couldn't love you the way you needed. That's not failure. That's initiation. Sometimes, the universe sends the wrong person at the right time, not to stay, but to awaken, to peel back your layers, to burn away illusions you didn't even know you were trapped in. And yes, it hurts, because it touches your deepest hopes, that love would heal your wounds, that connection would cure your loneliness, that someone else could finally make you feel safe. But no one can be your anchor. No one can fill the spaces you refuse to fill yourself. And those who leave, they often reveal how far you still have to go to return home to your own soul. When you meet someone who awakens you, you feel alive in a way you never have before. And when they leave, you're left standing in the wreckage, with the terrifying realization that the aliveness wasn't about them. It was about you. It was always about you. They didn't give you something you lacked. They revealed something you already had. And now, the real work begins, to nurture that spark without needing anyone else to keep it lit. It's tempting to romanticize these connections, to believe that one day, maybe, they'll return. That maybe it was just bad timing, and maybe that's true. But clinging to that hope often blinds you to the deeper task. Integration. Taking what was awakened and weaving it into your own becoming. Jung taught that what you resist persists. If you resist the loss, the grief, the transformation, you stay trapped. You stay waiting, bleeding out in a story that already gave you everything it was meant to give. The universe doesn't waste energy. It doesn't send people into your life by accident. Even the unfinished ones, especially the unfinished ones, they serve a purpose. So instead of asking, why couldn't we be together? Ask, what did this connection come here to show me? Maybe they awakened your capacity to love deeper than ever before. Maybe they triggered a rage you needed to face. Maybe they mirrored your hidden fears. Or maybe they called out your truest self from the shadows. Not every connection is meant to last. Some are meant to ignite, to resurrect, to awaken. You can mourn the loss. You can grieve the future that will never happen. But don't lose sight of what you gained. A deeper understanding of yourself, a more honest relationship with your own soul. There's a particular kind of grief that comes when the universe sends you love, not to keep, but to transform you. It's quieter than heartbreak, deeper than sadness. It's the mourning of an old self, an old way of seeing the world, and yet, beneath that grief, there is gratitude. Gratitude for having felt something real. Gratitude for having loved courageously. Gratitude for having been cracked open wide enough to let new light in. It's easy to grow bitter, to blame them, to blame yourself. But bitterness is just pain that refuses to evolve. And your soul didn't come here to stay bitter. It came to grow. You are not the same person you were before them. That is not an accident. That is the point. So maybe you can't be with them. Maybe you never were meant to be, but you can still honor what they gave you. The fire, the clarity, the courage. They were a bridge, not a destination. A storm, not a shelter. A lesson, not a lifetime. And if you carry that truth forward, if you let the love, the pain, and the awakening shape you without hardening you, then nothing was wasted. You didn't lose them. You found yourself. Some connections were never meant to be easy. They weren't meant to fit neatly into your life. They came to disarm you, to expose the parts of you still asleep, still afraid, still hiding. When you meet someone you can't be with, it tests everything you believe about love, about destiny. It forces you to ask, is love about possession, or is love something more? Jung believed we are drawn to those who carry pieces of our soul, pieces we are meant to reclaim. Sometimes those pieces come wrapped in joy, other times in chaos. Both are sacred. The one you couldn't keep was not a mistake. They were an awakening. They reminded you that your heart is capable of more than survival. That pain doesn't mean something went wrong. It means something mattered. So when the longing hits, when a song or a scent brings them rushing back, let it. Don't fight it. Pain does not mean you're broken. It means you've lived. And when you ask, why them? Ask also, what in me needed to be brought back to life? The universe isn't cruel. It's precise. It gives you what your soul needs. And sometimes, the deeper the love, the more powerful the transformation it demands. If you're mourning someone you couldn't keep, honor it. Honor them. Honor the growth. Then slowly, begin building a life not around the loss, but around the aliveness they uncovered in you. Because the real tragedy wouldn't be losing them. It would be losing the you that you began to become because of them. They were a chapter, not the whole book. And sometimes the most beautiful chapters are the ones we can't return to. Only remember, with quiet, soul-deep gratitude,